Hi Mac fam, welcome back to my channel. Um, so I wanted to film the video of my scoliosis surgery, um, and just kind of like how I'm doing today and everything. So, if you go back to some of my previous videos, um, I would recommend watching the one that's titled My First Scoliosis Appointment. So that you have like an idea. And I would watch the other ones as well, but I just kind of go into like a little more depth and kind of talking about, you know, finding out I had scoliosis. And I think at the end of that video, you see a picture of my spine. Um, so before the scoliosis surgery, my spine was like crooked. So, like, I think like kind of like an S. So like the top part of my spine was curved and then the other half of my spine was curved, if that makes sense. Um, and it looked really bad. I mean, it scared me, it scared my family. We didn't really know what to do. And the doctor gave us an option. Um, you can have the surgery or you don't have to have it. And I decided, it took probably a couple months, maybe years to decide, but I decided to have the surgery. So we had to wake up really early. I think on September 11th was when I had it. I might be wrong. A lot of my family members would probably know the date. So if I'm off, any of my family members, just let me know down in the comments below, because a lot of my family watches my YouTube channel. But I think I am right. I think it was September 11th. I think. Sometime in September, but I think that was the date. Anyway, we had to wake up really early. It was dark outside, and yeah, so it was dark outside, and we had to get up and we had to go. And so me and my mom drove down to where I had the surgery. And I think I've talked about this in like other videos, but my parents are divorced. Um, so my dad doesn't live where my mom lives. So he actually had to fly, in to, he stayed at like some kind of apartment, but he stayed for probably 3 days. Um, but he flew in, and me and my mom drove to the hospital. And we got there, and we waited, and then my dad showed up. Um, so he was there the morning that I was going back for surgery, and he was there like a couple days after as well, while I was still in the hospital. So, but kind of let me back up a little bit. My dad's mom, my grandma, had to come up and stay with my younger brother, because he was still in school during this time and somebody needed to take care of him because my mom and dad would both be at the hospital with me, taking care of me. Um, and so she came up. She came up, I think, like the night before, I think, or maybe the day before that, but she was up before we left for our surgery, the morning of. So she was here, I think, the day before we had to go for my surgery. Um, and then we got to the hospital. We had to wait for a while, and then they took us back. They got me in like this hospital gown, and then they had to get some like fluids in me. Because usually the night of surgery, you can't eat or drink anything. And so I didn't eat anything. I was so hungry. I remember I was so hungry. um, but yeah. and but they put an IV in, and just to kind of get some fluids in me. Um, because I think they had to like check something. I'm not really sure. Anyway, but they did that. And probably they put it in too for the surgery. But we waited in that little room. I was on a hospital bed. We just waited. And then the anesthesiologists, people, I think I said that right, but the people who, anesthesiologist, I think, I hope I'm saying that right. They came out, they were super nice. They're like, we're going to take good care of her. Yeah, I think my parents got a little emotional before I went back because they knew that it was going to be a difficult surgery and a difficult recovery, and it was a hard recovery. I can be honest, it wasn't easy. But I said bye to them, and we went back, and they were like, don't worry, we're going to take good care of her. And they really did. So they took me back to the operating room, and it was very bright in there. They say it's always bright in the operating room, but it was very bright. They took me back, and they gave me like this like gas. I think it was like laughing gas, but it also made me like very tired. And then the next thing I remember was I was feeling tired and my eyes closed and I fell asleep. So, yeah. And then I remember, so I was in surgery probably, I don't know, probably for a couple of hours. It's a very long surgery. But I got out, and they had to take me to this intensive care unit just for one night, I think, because they just had to like make sure I was gonna like be okay and stuff. And I think I remember I woke up at one time and it was like very, very bright in the room. But then I fell back asleep because the anesthesia, it's gonna make you tired. So that day I remember I slept. But my mom told me when I came out of surgery, when she saw me, I started crying, but I don't remember that. Maybe I did, but maybe I was doing it while I was tired. I have no clue. But I don't remember that. But she was like, it made me so sad. You came out crying. And I was like, oh. But, anesthesia's gonna do stuff like that to you. And then the next day, I remember I woke up. It was pretty early. My mom slept in like this chair. And my dad wasn't there. I think he might have left, and then I think he came back to the hospital that morning. And then I remember I think I fell back asleep, and my mom was gone, and I think she went to go get breakfast or go get something. Or I'm not really sure. But I remember when I woke up, my dad was there. And I remember being in pain. And so a nurse, she was super nice. I loved her. She told me, she's like, all right, you're going to have to get up. Like, we're going to walk from the hospital bed to this chair, and then you're going to sit in the chair for a little while, and then we're going to get back up and walk back to the hospital bed. It was painful. It was very painful. And what they do for scoliosis surgery is they cut down your back. So I have a huge scar and it's like straight. So they cut your back open so they can see your spine. And then they put metal rods and screws in your spine to make it straight. So I have metal rods and screws in my back. So yeah. So yeah. And that was painful. And then I remember for a while, I think I had this like very long like tape thing or bandage on my back. while the scar and stuff was like trying to heal and stuff. Um, but yeah, but it was painful, but I did it. And then I got to come back down, even just sitting down after the surgery. Sitting down in that chair was very uncomfortable. Standing up was very uncomfortable. Walking even hurt. Um, it was not fun. It was very uncomfortable because it was a big surgery. I mean, it was a long surgery, but it was a big surgery too. I actually still today I have a scar on my back. Um, and you can tell that I had something done because the scar is still visible. Um, I mean, it looks better than it did like once I first had the surgery. It's come a long way, the scar has, but you can still notice something happened. And so, yeah. And then I think I was moved from that unit that I was on. I was moved down to another unit where there was a bathroom, a shower, all that stuff. So I get moved to that room, and yeah, so I had a physical therapist who we would walk down the hallways, we would get up, I would have to sit in a chair. And so I had to do all these things. And then I remember before I went home, I had to walk upstairs that they had in the hospital. And yeah, so I did all that, and I was at the hospital for probably a couple of days. And then I remember one of those days my dad left. I was very upset. They had pet therapy there at the hospital for patients if you wanted to see dogs. And one of them I remember, he was a big old dog, black and white. He was big, huge, but he was very calm. I think his name was Bear. He looked like a bear, but he was cute. Like I could tell he was a dog, but I liked the name. But he came, and he came and put his head like on the side of like the hospital bed, and he was so calm. Like I got to pet him. I mean, he knew that like I mean they train those dogs because I was hurting from my surgery and I didn't need a lot of chaos, you know? But the dog was very calm and I needed that, but it was good. Um, and then there was another dog, it was tinier, and it prayed, which I've never seen a dog pray before, but it was so cute. um, and then there was this last dog that came in, but I started crying because I was in pain. I think my stomach was upset this day. It was not my day. So the other dog had to leave, and they offered to come back later, but they never did. But it was just a rough day for me. Um, it might have been the third day I was there. They usually always say after any surgery, the third day is the worst. um, but yeah. And then I would even walk to the bathroom. I just walked in different directions because I did have to learn how to like walk again after the surgery. It's not that I couldn't, it was just painful and it was different. And then I think a couple days after I got to go home, um, which was very nice. And I think I also remember I was on a very solid diet at first. Like, I think I only wanted smoothies and popsicles. It's just because, I anesthesia, and usually after surgeries, you're not really hungry. um, so I got to go home. Well, no, I think actually one more thing before I left. They had me do some x-rays of my back. I think my doctor wanted to see um, for I think like my follow-up appointment. But yeah. Um, and that was kind of hard too. And then I got to go home, and I remember I was in a wheelchair. They wheeled me out. Every time we'd go over any kind of bump, it hurt. Um, it was painful. um, and but I made it, and then we made it out, and then we went to go get a smoothie from Smoothie King on the way home, and then we went home. And I started my recovery being at home. So I was out of school for like a couple of days because I was at the hospital recovering, and then I came home, and I think I was out for like another week or two. I was doing school virtually at this time. Um, so yeah. But yeah. I'm trying to think. um, I came home, and my grandma and my brother were here, and yeah, so they kind of still had to like kind of take care of me. Um, One thing was I couldn't take a shower at first because of the bandages or the stitches or the scar. But then when I did have to take a shower, I could not get my back wet. So I would have to like wash everything else, and like my mom or my grandma would have to like stand beside the shower so that I wouldn't fall. Because I still had anesthesia in me, and I was, still kind of, I mean, I don't think I was out of it, but they just had to make sure I didn't fall. um and yeah. um I'm trying to think. um but yeah. And then the doctor, I got some medicine that I could bring home um, after being at the hospital, but it made me sleepy. So I slept a lot once I got home, but I was still like recovering. Um, but it would help with the pain. Um, and then I got better, and then I had like a follow up appointment, I think a month or two after I had the surgery, and everything looked great. And yeah, and I was also restricted for a couple of weeks. I couldn't lift anything heavy. I couldn't do anything active. Like, I couldn't do any of that stuff. Um, and then once I think I got to like 5 months after having it, the doctor called that the dum dum stage because I actually felt better at 5 months, I think, from having the surgery. And he said you cannot do roller coasters or go on horseback riding because I think the rods and screws were trying to like fuse together. Because I think now they are fused, and what that means is they're part of the bone now. They're a part of my spine. So I think the muscles of my spine and the bones and everything has covered, I think, my rods and screws. So my rods and screws are still in my back. They're just covered by bones and muscle now, I think. But I didn't do anything like roller coasters or anything at that time, because he said, like, if anything comes loose, you would have to have another surgery. And he asked me, he's like, do you want to go through this again? I'm like, no, I don't want to. But yeah. And then I think it's been a year now, almost, or a year since I had it, and I'm doing better. I mean, I think I do kind of still have pain because it's a big surgery and it's a very long recovery, and I think I am kind of still recovering from it. Um, but before I had it with my scoliosis, I was in terrible pain. Um, I really struggled with having it. Um, my scoliosis. And my doctor was concerned that it would get worse as I got older, which I didn't want that. I don't want to be 60 or 70 and have my scoliosis get worse and at 60 or 70 I can't have surgery because I'm way too, like, I'm older, you know? Um, so yeah. Um, but those of you that have had it, let me know down below. And I also, there's so many people, if you look up like on YouTube, like in the search bar, um, like, scoliosis story, or my scoliosis story, or my journey, you know, my scoliosis journey, or whatever. My scoliosis surgery story, maybe. You know, go look those up, because before I had it, that's what I did. And it kind of helped me to see what they would go through. So I would recommend watch somebody else's story if you want to, or educate yourself if you want. Um, you don't have to, but if it would be something you'd be interested in, you know, yeah. But this was my story, and I just wanted to share it. Um, and you know, it was painful and it was hard. I mean, but this is my story and just kind of everything I went through. Um, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but you know, it was a hard recovery. Just from me personally, but I think anybody else who's had it would say the same thing. I'm not trying to scare anybody who's going through something like this, and if you are, please know that you're not alone, and we can talk about it in the comments if you want. Keep the conversation going if you guys want to. Um, but yeah, just know I'm here for you, and if you have any questions about it or anything, you know, let me know. But just know you're not alone, and it's okay to be scared. You know, if you're going through something like this, because it's a big decision and it is scary. Um, but, you know, I think my pain in my back is much better from having it. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys liked the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe down below if you have not already. Always keep your head up, and I will see you guys in my next video, which I'm not really sure when that will be. I'm very busy with school and stuff this week, but I'll let you guys know. Alrighty, bye guys. Mwah. Have a great week. Bye, you guys.